Well, civil society organizations in South Africa are deeply concerned by the recent signing of the Alabama Abortion Act in the United States. They say this act is a direct attack against the rights of women, not just in the US, but globally. Section 27 and Sonke Gender Justice say despite our progressive abortion laws, this will have implications for us in South Africa. Well, to understand that, discuss this more, we are joined in the studio by Section 27 attorney Ekta Diochand. Ekta, good morning. Thanks for coming through.
Thank you, Dan, for having me.
Okay, I mean, at a broad level, why should South Africans care about these laws, the US anti-abortion laws? They're so far away.
Well, firstly, they have repercussions worldwide. There's been a rise of right-wing politics and a direct attack against women's rights. And in 2019, we don't expect to be having a discussion about the woman's right to dignity and autonomy and the right to make decisions about her own reproductive health. But closer to home, what people don't realize is that the government of the United States has a policy called Protecting Life and Global Health Assistance, commonly known as the Global Gag Rule. And that directly funds NGOs within our country to provide critical health services.
So are you concerned that Alabama is the latest state? We understand others like Ohio and Georgia have been doing similar anti-abortion laws. We ran a story here yesterday morning showing people protesting. You can see them there on the screen. They were protesting yesterday against the Alabama one. Are you concerned that this gag rule will mean there will be no funding from the United States for those health organizations that need it?
So what's happening is that these health organizations, these NGOs that provide services, are entering into agreements. So it's actually a contractual clause that's a part of their funding agreement where they agree not to perform or promote abortion. And this includes counseling about or providing any information to a woman about the availability of abortion. So in a way, it will impact on access by preventing workers or anyone working with health rights from providing information to women who seek.
So basically you're saying if you don't sign that contract with that clause from the US to get US help, you'll not get the help.
Absolutely.
Because you're standing for your views. Now, anti-abortion, I mean, in South Africa it's handled differently. We don't think this kind of behavior or the change of legislation in America will affect our laws here, do you think?
I don't think it will affect our laws here, but the problem is not our law, the problem is the implementation of our act. 20 years after the Choice and Termination of Pregnancy Act has been passed, we still have such disastrous access to abortion in this country for numerous reasons. And I think this has given us an opportunity as a country to reflect on our own conservatism and the fact that stigma is still surrounding abortion in our country, which prevents access to it within the public health sector. In Gauteng, there are only 4 facilities which provide second trimester abortions in the entire province.
Now, what can people do? I mean, let's just talk about this American one. The impact, you are very clear they could have implications for us in South Africa, but in South Africa now, painting that picture that you've just painted, despite the existence of a law, behavior is different. What should be done?
So the department has said that they're in the process of developing guidelines,
the
Department of Health, the National Department of Health, to develop guidelines to regulate conscientious objection or refusal to provide abortion by healthcare workers. So we have a constitution which recognizes the right to religious freedom and freedom of conscience. So workers use that as a way to refuse to provide abortion.
Because it's very difficult to balance because of people's religious beliefs and what the law says.
It is difficult, and you have the freedom of autonomy yourself and religious belief. But what our view is that the state should regulate the application of that freedom of religious belief by putting in place measures of referral and other instances of availability so that it doesn't impede access on women's rights.
But for that to happen, there has to be a new regulation. So is Section 27 going to be pushing for that change to make sure that that regulation happens that you're talking about?
We have been. We've been working with other women's rights organizations and civil society organizations that have been working on this issue for a very long time and trying to push for this. And despite that, there's been reluctance to pass these types of regulations. So I think now is an opportunity for us to confront these issues and to demand change and political action. And obviously there are resource constraints, but it's a political decision on how we choose to allocate resources.
Okay, is there a solution to the American one in terms of that gag rule? Is there a solution possibly as well there that Section 27 is thinking about, short of just defying the Americans?
So
because you need the assistance.
Absolutely. Defying it is not as simple as it sounds in principle. There are some organizations we are aware of that have refused taking the money on the grounds that they don't accept the conditions. But we are, due to, well, PEPFAR is the largest HIV funder in our country. They are giving us $730 million in the next financial year. So without that financial input in our country, HIV services will be heavily impacted. So we are in a very difficult position as civil society organizations. So what we're trying to do is to clarify the terms of the policy, to make people aware that there is an exception in the policy for local laws which allow you to provide information about abortion, which we have in this country.
Okay.
So even if recipients sign the clause, we're trying to make them aware of a clause in the contract which says that they are still allowed to provide information about abortion.
Okay, thank you very much, Hector, for coming through. We'll have to watch this space and see how things develop, because in America, it looks like the movement in terms of the conservative side of things is gaining momentum, as we've seen now with the state of Alabama. Thank you very much. Section 27, Attorney Hector Diochand.